Hi, everyone. It's Paul, and this is going to be a very interesting test of an episode for me. This is the Week 9 recap of our Danker Family Fantasy Football League. So, normally when I do these episodes, I have notes, I look over everything, matchups, the coming matchups in the following week, any sort of recent activity, whether it's significant pickups on the waiver wire, trades, whatever the case may be, etc. For the first time, I'm just diving in completely blind. I honestly don't even know the outcomes of some of the games that happened over the weekend. I do know mine, sadly, because, who doesn't pay attention to their own game? But suffice to say, this is going to be an interesting episode. So bear with me. And who knows, maybe it's better that I'm lower my standards a bit. I don't know. We'll see. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and we shall get started. So, looking at the standings, looks like from the first view of it, wow, okay. Excuse me. We have a five-way tie, it looks like, for first place. Five, six, and three teams with Carrie, Ben, John, Tom, and Nels all atop the league at 6 and 3. And then we have two that are like on the bubble of the playoff picture right now. We have Carroll 5 and 4 and Garrett slash Theo, who's also 5 and 4. And then we have the poor bottom barrel scrapers. I don't know if whatever the right word to say is, but the three teams that are at the bottom of the barrel, myself, Joan, and Adrian. This has been a very tough year for the three of us. Adrian and Joan made the playoffs last year, and now it looks like they're not going to make it. And I was bottom of the league last year, and I very may well be the bottom again. So it's just been a very rough 2 years for me in fantasy, but I'm just sulking. That's all. Um, Looking at some of the season stats, let's see who we have leading in points for. It's still Carol. Okay. She's been playing, or her team has been on fire lately. I think she has Jalen Hurts and Derrick Henry, so that obviously helps. And she picked up Kareem Hunt. Those are I know off the top of my head at least. Those that three have been key for her in this little winning streak she has. Three, not little by the way, three straight wins. That might be tied for the most. No, actually, no, Carrie probably has more because she was undefeated, so never mind. But right now she has the best streak of anyone with three straight wins. Carroll is heating up. So all you 6 and 3 teams, beware of the check down champs. And then obviously, in the middle we have Carrie, Ben, John, Tom, Dad, Nels, Joan, and Garrett, all in the 1,000 mark, whereas Adrian and I still have yet to reach the 1,000 point mark because our teams are just that terrible. And then points against Nels, first in points against. He's been the lucky one that has not surrendered 1,000 points to any of his opponents or to all of his opponents quite yet. Still at 960. Everyone else has hit 1,000. Adrian is the only one that's in the 1,200. So Adrian being last place in points for and last place in points against. So it's just a big recipe for disaster for Adrian this year. And I feel usually I would harp on him, and I feel like he might feel like I still am just by pointing it out. But I feel for you, Adrian. I'm right there with you as far as the overall standings go. I'm only fourth in points against, but again, my points for is atrocious. So nothing crazy there for me. Streak wise, like I said, Carroll's has the best winning streak right now with three. Tom, after he had that 2 game losing streak a few weeks ago, now he's back winning two games in a row with Ben and Nels also having 2 wins in a row. Garrett got off a losing streak. He got his first win back. And then poor Carey too. Carey also has two straight losses after starting 6 and 1. So man, once upon a time was the leader of the league. Now it's no more to beat. So but she's got plenty of time to put herself back on top too. And then Adrian, having lost 8 straight games. So sad. Moving on to I don't think there's any news or like any recent activity that has happened. Just taking a quick look. It doesn't really look like it. It's just some defenses, some backup quarterbacks, tight ends. Yeah, there's really nothing of significance that I see. No big trades that have happened within the last week. So yeah, no significant movement there. All right, let's go to the scoreboard, shall we? Let's go to week 9 because that's what we are recapping. And box score. All right. First matchup. Terrific. My second, I believe this is the second time that I played Garrett, and he beat me once again. So I'm 0 for 2 when I play Garrett slash Theo, and he barely beat me this time by 2 points. Once again, my matchup with Garrett slash Theo comes down to our Monday night matchup, and it was very devastating because he had Mahomes and Worthy, the Chiefs, and I had McLaughlin and Otten with the Bucks. So I obviously wanted my Bucks players to do well. He wanted Chiefs players to do well. This was the first game that Patrick Mahomes got 20 plus points in. So of course, the one time he gets it, it's against me. Go figure. And even then, the rest of his lineup did pretty well too, other than Xavier Worthy. You got 15 points from your tight end. That's terrific. You got, solid performance from your wide receivers, double digits by both running backs. So it's just overall the top half, the top two-thirds of his lineup really came through for him. Whereas for me, I only had one person in the 20s. It was my tight end, Kate Otten, who's been playing very well recently. So and obviously that has to, you know, be because of the injuries to the wide receivers in Tampa, Mike Evans and Chris Godwin going down. That definitely helped him out. But everyone else, I mean, Austin Eckler did well, replacing Brian Robinson, who got hurt. DeAndre Swift, he did all right. Kyron Williams had a down game. That was very disappointing. I'm so used to him getting in that 19, 20 point range and down game from him, and that obviously hurt me when I lost by 2. Kirk Cousins had an all right game. I picked him up off waivers because I just could not stand playing CJ Stroud anymore, at least until he has a much better matchup. And then, yeah, Jake Ferguson on my bench with 14 points. Garrett really didn't have anyone on his bench that would have made a difference. I mean, he won, so it doesn't matter. But obviously, he probably he should have started Harrison Jr. over Xavier Worthy. That was a little bit perplexing to me, why he made that decision, considering that Harrison Jr. is the number one receiver in Arizona and Xavier Worthy's kind of in a weird battle for 1 and 2 with DeAndre Hopkins in Kansas City. So interesting choice there, but nevertheless, he made the right decision. He was right in not playing Jared Goff either because he only got 9 points. Patrick Mahomes had his best game of the season. So that led to Garrett's victory and my demise. Hopefully, Christian McCaffrey makes his return next week and I can finally prove that he was the number one pick, even though he probably wasn't. So yeah, with all the time he's missed, there's no way I could do that. So it doesn't matter. I'll play him and I'll just eat the loss right there on the season for that. Mike Evans won't come back anytime soon, so that still sucks. CJ Stroud's got a bad matchup coming up next week, so I don't know. It's not looking good on my end. The one thing I'm somewhat hopeful for is that Deontay Johnson maybe can do better with Baltimore, but he's also battling with a lot of targets there with Mark Andrews, Isaiah Likely, and Zay Flowers, and obviously Derrick Henry. Their run game is terrific, so they might not even. And considering he's not even wide receiver 1 there, yeah, it's like why even like have hope in him? I don't know. He was a clear number 1 in Carolina, but obviously not in Baltimore. And my receivers obviously sucked. So Michael Pittman Jr., he's definitely been one of my worst picks. Obviously McCaffrey's the worst, but Michael Pittman, I thought he would be, clear cut number 1 receiver in Indianapolis with a young, stud quarterback in Anthony Richardson, and obviously that's not working out. And a down game for Brian Thomas, who's had recent success. So just overall not well for me. So congratulations to Garrett for getting his 5th win of the season. Next matchup, we have Joan facing Carol, the sister battle. I believe this is the first time they played each other, although it could be wrong. Carol got her 3rd win of the season. Carol got a lot of help from her top 3, from Hurts, Henry, and Hunt, the triple H cubed. So there you go. The H's did their job for Carol. And then obviously I'm on St. Brown too. He had a nice game against Green Bay. So the combination four right there, when you have four players at 18 plus, that's gonna obviously help, especially when the rest of your lineup isn't that bad either. Ladd McConkey getting 11, James Cook basically getting 12. And then for mom's side, she had Lamar Jackson, who has been the best quarterback in fantasy, best player in fantasy, really. But if we're just gonna go to quarterback specifically, he's been like number one. And then Chuba Hubbard had another game. He's been one of the best, you know, sleeper picks in the entire fantasy draft. But her bench, man, she started the wrong receivers. I mean, I honestly, who wouldn't have started Brown and Neighbors, right? But man, Tank Dell and Jackson Smith-Njigba on her bench. If she just makes that flip, right? She flips those two for these two, that does it. But that's kind of a hard thing. It's kind of hard to bench a guy like AJ Brown and Malik Neighbors, right? When they've been pretty good all year. So yeah, I mean, she just didn't have a bad performance from her team, minus AJ Brown and her defense, but just wasn't enough. Carroll's team was just better, and it just came down to a decision she made for her receivers. Really, that's it. Nothing Carroll really could have done differently other than starting Ray Davis, but who would have started Ray Davis over any of Derrick Henry, Kareem Hunt, or James Cook, especially when James Ray Davis is James Cook's backup. So, and I guess Tyler Lockett too, right? Could have started him instead of Ladd McConkey, but I wouldn't have done that if I were her anyway. So she's gonna get George Kittle back next week, so that's good for Carroll. Just you know, watch out for her. Like I'm saying, top tier quarterback, got a great running back group, and then with Amon-Ra St. Brown being a good wide receiver one, and George Kittle being tight end one in fantasy this year, Carroll's got quite the team. Hear me now, quote me later. She might make a run. Going on, Nashville Packers fan Nels facing Adrian. Big lopsided victory for Nels, obviously helping him to get in the top five there of all the top 6-3 teams. And then another loss for poor Adrian. I think this is the second time they played, and Nels won again. So looking at his line, he had the most points, by the way, it looks like. Yeah, he had 149. Actually, no. Tom had the most points. He had 157. So the second most points for Nels. Adrian was the only one who did not reach the 100 point mark. So, but for Nels's team, just with first glance, everyone except for Nick Chubb and his kicker were in double digits, even his defense. So great overall consistent performance from his team. Devon Achane, it's amazing how much better the Dolphin players are when Tua's in the lineup. I can't explain it. Like Tua isn't necessarily the most talented quarterback, right? There's nothing really unique about the way he plays. Mahomes, he makes like those crazy acrobatic plays. He can you know, what's the word? He can like scramble and make something out of nothing. You got Josh Allen who's got this powerful arm who can throw miles down the field. You got these athletic guys like, and I mean, yeah, Tua's athletic too, but he's not running as much as someone like Lamar or Kyler Murray or Jaden Daniels, right? Tua is just it's very strange. Like there's really nothing crazy unique about him other than the fact that he's a left-handed quarterback. Yet the Dolphins can't seem to function without him. So it's quite incredible in my opinion. But yeah, his running backs, he had the best running back performance, at least for the top two for the running backs one and two in his lineup, getting a combined 50, what is that, 53 points from two players, Bijan and Achane. So doing wonders. Anyone playing the Dallas defense, if you're a running back and you're playing, start them because Dallas cannot stop the run to save their life. And of course, Jane Daniels continuing his great year. Darnell Mooney, he's been a really good pickup. Not many people. I mean, he came from Chicago, didn't really do much there. I mean, he was a solid like wide receiver two at times, but he was never like this big play. He's had quite a year and sneaky good, and he's been a good guy to have to replace when DK Metcalf is hurt or when Zay Flowers is hurt. Even though Zay Flowers played and he got 29 points, so if Dad plays Zay Flowers instead of Nick Chubb, he could have gotten even more points. He could have surpassed Tom in points, but doesn't matter because he still won. He still got a good, he got a great game from Travis Kelce too. He's been heating up. So Nelson's team is looking pretty good right now, minus his receiver. Obviously, well, his receivers could be good with some consistency and health from DK Metcalf too. And Adrian's side, it's just what else can I say? His running backs are good. Kyler Murray usually is good, but he just had a down game against Chicago, so that obviously didn't help. And then everyone else just down the tube. Puka Nacua, he came back, he had a strong game, but he put him on his bench. And then when he started him, he gets ejected. So it's like Adrian just can't, he has no luck when it comes to Puka at all this year. Yeah, he got ejected for punching a Seahawk player, so that was very unfortunate. Didn't really get a chance to get many points from him. And then Jalen Waddle, he had a few catches. He had one, I think he had a touchdown, I believe, too. But other than that, didn't really do much. He's definitely been very disappointing. Sam Laporta too. He's only had like one or two decent games. Jonathan Taylor had a down game. I mean, it's all downhill for Adrian. Pollard and Dobbins have both had been very good. Like they've been pretty good running backs in fantasy. Now they're not top tier, right? They're not like on the level of a Henry, a Saquon Barkley, or a Bijan, an Achane, a Mixon, but they've both been very, for the most part, pretty consistently up there in like the mid-teens, kind of as far as our average goes. So I like Adrian's running back group. Literally, and I guess Kyler Murray too. It's just he just had a down week against the Bears, but other than that, the rest of his team just hasn't been up to par. And it sucks because, Puka had such a great year last year, and obviously he got hurt, so that hinders it. Laporta, he was great last year as a rookie tight end. He hasn't really been living up to expectations this year. I don't know. It's tough. And obviously, having Stephon Diggs and he's out for the year, his depth isn't really that interesting either. Something maybe with Odunze, but he's not consistent enough yet. And then Jerry Jeudy just never has a good quarterback throwing it to him. So yeah, not a good time for Adrian. Um, Next matchup, Ben versus Kerry. This was the second time these two face each other, and once again, the prior winner wins again because I'm pretty sure Ben was the first team to beat Kerry this season. Gave her first loss. So if you really think about it, Kerry, you kind of are the top of the league, just not against Ben. Against everyone else, you're 6-1, but against Ben, you're 0-2. So just pray you don't face Ben anymore anymore this season if you're Kerry. But yeah, but looking at this matchup, Ben's team, wow, he had four players with 20 plus points, and he had a fifth player in Jacoby Myers with 18. That is just wow. But even then, that's really pretty much it. I mean, I guess his defense too, with Tennessee getting 13. But then he had three players, or I guess, yeah, three players because one of them's a kicker. Three players with 3 points or less. So it's very they either did absolutely well, over hitting their projection, or they were just complete trash or slash injured because Olave got hurt, which sucked seeing that. So that injury definitely was not fun to watch, but it didn't matter for Ben. He got the victory. Jefferson's doing his thing. Stevenson's been playing a lot better. Kamara bounce back game for him after a slow game, relatively poor last few games. Joe Burrow, he's been sneaky good quarterback in fantasy this year. Jacoby Myers, yeah, he's a guy that I've kind of always had my eye on, even when he was the wide receiver two in Vegas to when Devontae Adams was there. But now he's pretty much a clear cut number one receiver for the Raiders, and he's been pretty sneaky good. I like him. Cortland Sutton on his bench got 23, Jordan Addison 16. So yeah, obviously if he makes that switch, it's even better. Kyle Pitts had a down game. He's had a couple of really good games this year, but this was pretty down for him against Dallas. So, but yeah, that's definitely a huge recipe for success when you have basically five players getting you 18 plus points. And then for Carrie, I mean, she got 124. Is that the most points by any loser? It is. Okay, so Carrie would have beaten any other loser as well as one winner in Garrett. Yeah, she would have beaten Garrett. She would not have beaten any other winner. So, yeah, Carrie was just a little unfortunate in her timing of facing Ben this week. But yeah, so I mean, it's like she only had one player in single digits. That was her kicker. Everyone else, that's a pretty good spot to be in. Just very unfortunate she had to play Ben, who just had a little bit of a better lineup. Jahmyr Gibbs had a great game, you know. CeeDee Lamb, Chase Brown, 26 points. Good Lord. I didn't even realize he he had a great game against Vegas. But yeah, like Jake London, he got hurt, so that obviously hurt her. Jordan Love was not playing well at all. That hurt her, especially, you know, with his costly mistakes and just his receivers dropping passes. Very frustrating. Kenneth Walker did a little bit of a down game, even though he still got 13. Trey McBride hit his projection, so he pretty much did what he was supposed to do. Yeah, this is just a little bit of a frustrating matchup for Carrie because she pretty much played it as well as she potentially could have. Obviously, no one could have foreseen Drake London getting hurt, or, I mean, I guess yeah, you could have foreseen Jordan Love having a bad game, but yeah, she had Jaden Reed on her bench that maybe could have helped, and also Trevor Lawrence, but I don't know if that would have made up the difference. Well, if she plays Rico Dowdle too, you know, but again, you don't normally play Rico Dowdle ahead of Jahmyr Gibbs, Kenneth Walker, or Chase Brown, so that's just a fluke. So yeah, tough loss for Carrie. I have a good feeling she'll bounce back though. Her team's still pretty solid. I like her overall depth still. Brian Robinson should be healthy by the next game, so that'll be nice to have. She's still got plenty of options, so that's always a good thing. Always a good thing. And then Ben with his bench too. I mean, T. Higgins has been hurt the last couple of games. ETN, I mean, he still hasn't really done well much this year, but I still think he could be a guy, a good solid piece to have later in the season. And Najee Harris, he was doing pretty well up until the bye, so who knows with him too. It Ben and Carey have a lot of depth, and I really like that for them. So yeah. And then finally last game, again, John a rematch. John plays Tom. Tom beat John the first time, and Tom beat John again. So far in rematches, whoever won the first time has won again. So there you go. Don't if, judge your matchup based on what happened the previous time if it's a rematch. So looking at Tom's lineup because he won. Wow. First of all, obviously for this matchup, he won the trade, right? With when Adams and Wilson both getting 52 points combined and Jamar Chase only getting 11. Yeah, that's a good sign. That's good for Tom that he was able to, you know, for him, it's like, oh, I beat you with the guys you used to have, you know, and you lost with the guy you used to have. So, um, yeah, so that obviously has got to feel well for Tom. And then obviously Saquon Barkley, just another massive performance, 32 points for him, 22 points for Josh Allen, pretty much hitting his projection, and 16 points from Joe Mixon. Again, Tom's got probably the best running back group of anyone, and with the performance he had with his receivers, didn't matter what his tight end did, TJ, or how what his defense did. His kicker even got 11 points. So yeah, just a dominating performance. Great game by the Jets receivers. That obviously was key in his victory, which is funny because everyone was talking about how the Jets are, you know, the season's over, they stink. And on Thursday night, they just balled out, came out big against Houston. So that definitely helped put Tom over the top here. And I guess he, you know, Hopkins on his bench, right? So he could have played him, but even then, it doesn't matter because he got the win. John, on the other hand, he only had, yeah, like his lineup was solid too. I mean, not to the level of Tom's, obviously. Cooper Kupp having 21 points, good to see him playing well. You know, James Conner with 15, Sam Darnold 19. Like those are all good performances. Breece Hall just had a little bit of down game, and obviously Jamar Chase too. Dalton Kincaid's been kind of a disappointment this year. Calvin Ridley had a nice game. Yeah, this pull this up to a tough matchup. I mean, John only would beat three other teams, Adrian, myself, and Garrett. So it was kind of hard. I mean, his odds of winning with his performance this week were low anyway, but it's not a bad performance. It's just kind of tough luck. You know, you don't expect you don't expect Jamar Chase to only get 11 points against a Raiders defense, right? So that was a little tough to swallow. Um, and you just hope guys like Breece Hall would be a little bit more productive. And yeah, like Arizona had like two running backs score, and neither of them were James Conner. So that's obviously frustrating too. for John. But the good news for him is that he's got Nico Collins coming back, I think this week, if not for sure the week after. So he'll get another good receiver, so he won't need Calvin Ridley for long, unless he wants to play him, but who knows. And then Deebo Samuel coming off the bye too, and Cedric Tillman. I'm telling you now, he's playing pretty well, despite the fact that the Browns offense still isn't that great. So yeah, good. It's a good depth guy to have, but John's got a lot of good players overall. So that's that. Um, quick look at what's to come. Oh boy, I'm playing Adrian. That's fun. Um, so something's got to give. One of us is, or Adrian's either gonna snap his 8 game losing streak. This is our first matchup, by the way, too. Why is it taking me till week 10 to play Adrian? I mean, that's whatever. So either Adrian's gonna snap the 8 game losing streak, or I'm gonna get my third win of the season and just still be a bottom 3 team. So either way, it sucks for overall, but I guess I'm trying to avoid the humiliation of being the second team to lose to, to Adrian. Oh yeah, I should be doing it this way. That way I can see prior matchup history. Yeah, there we go. So obviously for me, if McCaffrey comes back, that's huge. I'm not too high on my receivers. Pittman's been terrible this year. Brian Thomas, I need him healthy against the Vikings defense. And Cade Otton, I need him to continue doing well. I need a bounce back from Kyron, and I need Kirk. I need a good quarterback play against the Saints defense that just traded away their best defender. So I, things need to line up. I picked up the Chargers defense, and hopefully they play well against the lame Titans offense. Yeah, just a lot of hope. Just and again, why am I hopeful? I'm probably not gonna make the playoffs anyway. I guess I just really don't want to lose to Adrian. Adrian's case, he just needs a lot to go his way, right? He needs Laporta to play like he did last year. He needs Taylor to bounce back. He needs Kyler Murray to bounce back, which would be tough against the Jets defense. He needs Jalen Waddle and Puka Nacua to play well, which is scary. They're both on Monday night. Well, although I got a Monday night player too in Kyron, so it might come down to Monday night again, like it always does for me. So yeah, interesting there. Next matchup, Carroll versus Carey. We got the hottest team in the league right now. Carroll, 3 straight wins, going up against Carey, who's lost 2 straight. Are the streaks going to continue, or will Carey end Carroll's recent reign and jump back on top of the league on her own? Last time they played each other, Carey won. So if what happened last week holds true, Carey should win. But right now, she's projected not to. Now, obviously, it's because Jordan Love's on a bye and Kenneth Walker's on a bye, so she's got to replace those players. But for her, yeah, just making sure I mean, the health of Lamb and London are huge, right? He needs that. I would think DJ Moore would be someone to think of, especially playing New England's defense. Brian Robinson can come back healthy, maybe play him, although Chase Brown has been playing well lately. But you could also put Brian Robinson in the second running back spot too. Yeah, she's got good options. For Carroll, obviously for her, you need your big three to keep. I'm gonna say big four because I'm gonna include Amon-Ra St. Brown in that. She needs her big four to keep staying hot. We don't want any down games from any of these guys. And then George Kittle coming off the bye, will he start continue to be successful as the number 1 tight end in fantasy this year? Will James Cook have a good game? It really is dependent on those 6 players for her. Those are the key 6. It's their core 6, I should say. For Tom versus Joan, this is also a rematch. Tom beat Joan by 5 points in week 2. So Joan trying to get some comeuppance on her older brother. We shall see how it turns out. 2 great quarterbacks in this matchup, Allen versus Lamar. Running backs, I'm going to give the edge to Tom just because obviously with Barkley, Montgomery, and Mixon, that's definitely a lot better than Rachaad White and Chuba Hubbard, even though Chuba Hubbard's having a great year. Receivers, it's tough. Adams and Wilson both had great games last week. Will they continue that? I don't know. I mean, Arizona's defense isn't terrible, but they're also not like the elite pass defense either. Mom's got the better names over better the players that have been better overall this year with AJ Brown and Malik Neighbors. So this might be a toss up as far as who's got the better receivers. Mom so far right now has the better tight end, I would say. Although Hawkinson just came back from injury, so we'll see how that goes. But for Mom, hoping that her three receivers in her lineup are better than the receivers on her bench, obviously. Well, Smith and Jigba's on a bye, so that makes it a little bit easier. Tank Dell might be a good play, although Detroit's defense is pretty on point. And I like Brown and Neighbors matchups a little bit better. So you know what? Don't listen to me on that one. Um, Tom, not really much you could do different. It would be interesting to see what defense he goes with, whether he goes with Kansas City's or Vikings. They're both playing some struggling teams. I mean, I guess Denver's not really struggling. They just had one loss, but it was a bad loss, Baltimore. Vikings are playing a more struggling offense in Jacksonville. And DeAndre Hopkins had a nice game, although Denver's pass defense is all right. And Tyrone Tracy, he's a guy to maybe think of, although I wouldn't start him over any of these three, so never mind. Yeah, I think Tom probably has the edge here, but Mom just got to hope that she has the right combination at receiver, and she's got to hope for big games from her running backs. Nels versus Ben. Battle for first place right here, basically, because you got two 6-3 teams. So, and Nels beat Ben the first time in week 1. So Nels has got the edge there. And with his running backs, Bijan and Achane, those are, I like them. I mean, I like Kamara more than these two. Harris I mean, it'll be interesting. He's had a couple of good recent weeks up until his bye. It'll be a pretty decent running back matchup. Quarterback is also kind of close, but I'm going to give the edge slightly to Jane Daniels. I think Joe Burrow kind of struggles in road division games, and he's definitely last year, he got hurt in that Ravens game. So, and it's a short week too. Quarterbacks usually don't do super well on the short weeks. I'm going to give Jaden Daniels the edge, although Pittsburgh's defense is not easy either, especially for a young rookie quarterback. But I'm going to give the edge to Nels there for quarterback and the running backs. Receivers, I'm definitely going on Ben's side. Justin Jefferson is just Justin Jefferson. And if Amari Cooper can stay healthy, I like his matchup against Indianapolis versus against a quick weak Zay Flowers. Nels probably have the better tight end right now. Yeah, it's gonna be a close game. Right now they have Nels projected to win, which he did win the first time, so that makes sense. As far as any other options go, not really anything that's coming to mind right away. Yeah, I think right now, what I mean, obviously he can make his own decision, but as it sits right now, I like what he has in there versus what other options there are. Josh Downs kind of having a nice season, but Buffalo's defense is not easy, pass defense wise. Um, Other options for Ben, obviously Olave and Higgins are not going to play. Yeah, I probably wouldn't be with the way Stevenson and Harris have played recently. I would definitely not start ETN. And I guess, yeah, Myers is on a bye. Jacoby Myers is on a bye. So it would be interesting if Mark Cooper can't go, then obviously I would probably suspect he'd go with Cortland Sutton because why would you have two Vikings receivers in the same lineup, right? So yeah, that's probably my thought process. And he picked up the Giants defense against Panthers, trying to go for that matchup and win against for defense. Nels picked up the Bears defense against the Patriots. So got some two defenses playing some really poor offenses. We'll see who comes out on top and who goes to 7-3 and who drops to 6-4. And then last game, John Lott versus Garrett. This is interesting too because John Lopp's also trying to get in the first place position. Garrett is trying to make his way up in the standings, trying to get his word in. First time they played, John beat Garrett, so he's got that edge. At quarterback, it's interesting because Denver's usually good against the pass, although they struggled last week. Patrick Mahomes is coming off his best game of the season, though. Darnold's playing a weak Jacksonville Jaguars team. Obviously, I like his running backs more. John's running backs, Brees and James Conner. Receiver wise, it just depends if Nico Collins is healthy. If he's healthy, I like John's receivers more. But if he's not, then it's a toss up because Tyreek Hill is Tyreek Hill, and he's going to be really good, especially against a Rams defense that just traded away their best defensive back. And Devontae Smith had a pretty nice game. And if AJ Brown, who is questionable by the way, if AJ Brown doesn't play, that really helps Devontae Smith's uh, shares, target shares. Tight end wise, I mean, I would think Kincaid is better, but with the way tight ends are this year, who knows, right? So yeah, and well, Marvin Harrison Jr. Well, he's been very roller coastery this year. He's been very up and down. Going up against the Jets defense, I don't really suspect he'll go back up, although he could shock us. So I would probably suspect Deebo Samuel has a better game. I'm a little shocked. This is just what it shows right now. I'm a little shocked he's got Cooper Kupp on his bench. Now I know that the Dolphins' pass defense is pretty good, and they held Marvin Harrison last week, but Marvin Harrison's also like the Cardinals don't have they're not that deep at receiver either. So it's not like it was really hard for them to choose. The Rams have Kupp, they have Nakua, they have Kyron, even Demarcus Robinson's playing pretty well for the Rams. So it's a little interesting that he's got Kupp in his bench right now. Obviously, if Collins is out, put Kupp back in, yeah, then that would definitely make a difference for sure. Yeah. So I like John's team, but it is dependent on health. That's definitely a big key. So yeah. So that's that, everyone. That was very interesting. I was not prepared at all, but I just wanted to give it a try like that. So thank you guys for listening. Oh, actually, an update on the stats, the data from the season so far, just to see who's been the best overall for each position. Quarterback right now, obviously you got Lamar Jackson, the top five. Let's do top five for each position. All right. Well, for quarterback, we'll do five. Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts, Jayden Daniels, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow have been the top five fantasy quarterbacks this year, and they're all top five in overall ranking too. Which obviously quarterbacks usually score more points than any other position anyway, so that's not really a shock. Running backs, and again, big caveat. This is all, based on who was drafted. So undrafted players, guys like Baker Mayfield, Russell Wilson, Sam Darnold, they're not included because they were not drafted. Drafted running backs, since there's two that start for each team, we'll do top 10. Top 10 running backs. Top 10 running backs. Derrick Henry, Alvin Kamara, Saquon Barkley, Jahmyr Gibbs, Bijan Robinson, Kyren Williams, Joe Mixon, Kenneth Walker, Devon Achane, and James Cook are the top 10 running backs in fantasy this year. And a little interesting because you got two guys who were drafted in the later rounds, and Chuba Hubbard and J.K. Dobbins are just barely outside that top 10. So very interesting stuff. For the receiver position, also I'll do top 10. Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase, the LSU boys. Chris Godwin, even though he's missed the last couple of games, he's still a top 10 receiver in fantasy overall this year. He was just on a tear. It's just a shame that he got hurt the way he did in that Monday night game. Garrett Wilson, CeeDee Lamb, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Malik Neighbors, nice to see a rookie in there. Nico Collins, Drake London, and Terry McLaurin. have been the top 10 performing receivers this year in fantasy, with guys like Brian Thomas and Darnell Mooney, who are also 100 number picks that are just outside the top 10. Looking at tight end, we'll just do top five. We have George Kittle, Brock Bowers, Trey McBride, Travis Kelce, and Kyle Pitts. So, not really shocked about Kelce and Kittle being in the top five, and I guess McBride too. Pitts is a little bit interesting because he was a guy everyone was pretty high on in the past, and he hadn't been playing up to that level. But now that he has a pretty decent quarterback and a better offense, yeah, it's starting to take shape for what it should have been this whole time. And then obviously when you have a rookie tight end in the top five, that's huge. Now, is Brock Bowers going to become the next Sam Laporta, right? Next year, is Brock Bowers going to suck? But he might have a better quarterback next year, so well, who knows? And then these two are kind of irrelevant because defenses and kickers, they get moved around all the time. But just for curious sake, the Vikings and the Steelers are easily the top two defenses in fantasy as far as defenses that have been drafted or that were drafted. And then kickers, Chris Boswell, who's a free agent, by the way. So if you want a good kicker, Chris Boswell is available. Chris Boswell, Brandon Aubrey, Kaimi Fairbairn, they're all in the top 100 in ranking. So yeah, a little interesting stuff. So thank you guys for watching. I appreciate the time that you take out of your busy lives to watch these podcast videos, even though they're not super important, but it's just for fun. So, hope you guys have a great rest of your week. Wish you all the best of luck, except for Adrian in week 10. And yeah, have a good night, everyone.